I am aware that the episode of And Just Like That aired this week has a lot of information that has to be processed. Is Charlotte, Kristen Davis, compelled to bear the news of Harry's cancer diagnosis in silence, unable to inform anybody else this information? It breaks my heart. Miranda, Cynthia Nixon, and her neighbor going out of their way to confront her? A greater amount of visual information than I had anticipated. On the other hand, the issue that I really can't stop thinking about is the entire real estate predicament that Carrie is in. I have some inquiries. Could it be that Carrie, played by Sarah Jessica Parker, is in fact Duncan Reeves' landlord? It's possible that she didn't realize she was receiving money from the renting of her home because it came with a renter who already had a lease attached to it. Alternatively, is Carrie's vast home actually constructed on top of a privately owned flat on the ground floor that also happens to share a garden with another flat? It is necessary to provide additional explanation for this arrangement, since a significant number of the people who watch this show are already familiar with New York City, and a significant number of us are aware of the fundamentals of real estate in New York. Is any of that significant to the arc of the story? No. However, as a New Yorker who is always curious, I need to comprehend it. In New York, it is not necessary for people to be aware of every single detail regarding your work or income. Nonetheless, we are required to be aware of everything that pertains to your flat. Carrie is the first person to notice a new neighbor moving into the downstairs flat in this episode. After that, a compilation of several types of footwear. As she walked through her home wearing all of the shoes, Carrie made her way down from her knees. Simply put, I'm going to say it, this is absolutely revolting. Is she going to walk about barefoot and trample all over those wood floors with her heels? Those floors have a very original appearance. Do you think she's going to wander around her house in the same shoes that she wore when she walked down Lexington Avenue? If we continue to believe the idea that some women find wearing heels to be more comfortable than not wearing shoes at all, or wearing slippers or comfortable shoes that are clean for the house, then we are still in the wrong. This whole thing is flawed on a number of different ways. In addition, Carrie's clomping and stomping is keeping her new neighbor awake every night. Everything is made even more difficult by the fact that Carrie's house does not yet have any rugs. As a result, when Carrie's new neighbor comes up to her door and demands answers, she attempts to play it off in a sweet way. However, the neighbor, an author named Duncan Reeves, played by Jonathan Cake, what a name, is not amused by her attempt to play it off that way. I'm not trying to be funny. I am funny, she says. We'll be the judge. Could you at least take off your high heels from your feet? He asks her, and she declines because she thinks he is extremely bold to do so. At the very least, Charlotte is honest with Carrie when she informs Miranda, Sema, Sarita Chowdhury, and Charlotte about this during lunch. Charlotte tells Carrie that taking your shoes off at home is more sanitary. At that point, Carrie makes her statement. I still can't believe it, even though we all knew that this cue was going to come. I am entitled to certain privileges. The right of a woman to wear shoes. I just want to make a quick aside and say that I find a lot of the jokes on this reboot to be out of touch. Many of the show's writers are older members of Generation X, and some of them are even boomers. Don't make me type that. I am a member of the Generation X generation, and I can state that we are a generation that is desensitized and pushes boundaries. We were the age that went through the 1980s and 1990s at a time when we laughed at a lot of terrible and very wrong things. However, up until this point in the season, there has been a physical gag about a school massacre. Many jokes that use they slash them as a punchline, and now there is wordplay about abortion rights. To quote Jerry Seinfeld, who was referring to Tim Whatley's decision to convert to Judaism, I'm offended as a comedian. I am not oversensitive about the politics that are discussed here. The reason for this is that I believe the writers believe they're pushing limits, but these edgy gags are just not amusing enough. I don't understand how it is conceivable that Carrie, who lives in a spacious townhouse on Gramercy Park, was unaware that there would be someone living in that flat for 6 months out of the year. Although Sema, in her capacity as her buying agent, informs Carrie that she did, in fact, inform her about this tenant, Carrie is still completely taken aback. It has come to light that the individual in question is not merely a cranky transient. Rather, he is the well-known historical historian Duncan Reeves. One could say that he is the Ron Chernow of this hypothetical reality. Although his subsequent novel, which is about Margaret Thatcher, has the potential to be adapted for the stage, does Carrie not realize that she is impeding the development of My Fair Iron Lady? When Duncan offers Carrie a pair of slippers as a peace offering, she scoffs at the gesture. Carrie does feel a little awful about the situation, and she brings Duncan a gift basket as a peace offering. In spite of the fact that this looks like an odd hill to die on, Carrie is going to do it. The next flat next to Miranda's Airbnb is playing some kind of Kirkland brand Metallica all night long, and Miranda has a complaint about the loudness that she received from the neighboring flat. She tries to deal with it by slipping the occasional letter under the door of the neighbor so that he will turn down the volume. However, one night, he opens the door naked and brandishing a cleaver and threatens to hack her into pieces if she continues to complain. This is the moment that Carrie and Miranda finally become roommates. Almost simultaneously with Miranda's arrival at the residence, an unexpected delivery likewise comes. It's the big, stupid table that Carrie has been seeking throughout the entire season. It was a great disappointment to her that she had missed out on it when she discovered that it had been sold the previous week. However, what she did not realize was that it had been sold to Aiden, and he had purchased it for her. That is a wonderfully sweet gesture, even up to the point where the delivery man accepts. During the time that Carrie and Miranda are waiting outside to accept the delivery, Duncan arrives at his house. Miranda is unable to contain her excitement and asks Duncan to sign her copy of the Winston Churchill biography that he has written. Interested in finding out who else enjoys Duncan Reeves? That person is Samantha Jones, right? Carrie makes her first appearance of the season, which is a text message, and she uses it to contact Samantha, who lives in London. You'll remember, how could you not? She wants to know if Samantha has any information about Duncan. Carrie writes back to Samantha, "He's living under me." Samantha adds that she has heard that he is a lot of fun. Carrie also asks if you have ever generated an idea before your brain even recognized what it was doing. In a moment it took me to read Carrie's text, I had an innate knowledge that Samantha's response would be, "I wish he was under me." I can even hear Kim Cattrall saying it, despite the fact that it is a text and Kim Cattrall is not currently appearing on this show. For the sake of argument, let us imagine that she uses speech to text, and that these phrases are floating around in any part of London. It was entertaining to laugh at Harry when he was yelling at himself 2 episodes ago, but it turns out that his recent fixation on his own mortality has been genuine. He admits to Charlotte that he has been to the doctor and has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. Harry tries to reassure Charlotte that the cancer was detected at an early stage and that he will be all right. He states that he simply does not want to be known to everyone as the cancer guy. Therefore, he asks Charlotte not to tell anyone about it. Charlotte begins to spiral out of control. Despite the fact that Charlotte and Lisa have planned a weekend trip to Governor's Island to go glamping, the trip does not turn out to be what they had hoped for. Lily, Harry, and Rock are adamant about not leaving their tent. Herbert and Lisa are continually arguing with each other, and Charlotte is being tormented by the fact that Harry has been diagnosed with cancer in secret. Following Herbert's accusation that Lisa was getting a bit too close to her stunning editor, Marion, Lisa decides to spend some time with Charlotte in order to calm down. And during this time, the two women share their secrets with one another. For the reason because, as you can see, Lisa does have a crush on Marion, which is obviously a complex situation. Perhaps it's simply a crush at work, but it's obvious that it's giving her a lot of anxiety. Lisa is aware that Charlotte is experiencing a great deal of distress, but because she has taken an oath to maintain confidentiality regarding Harry's health, she suppresses her ability to shed tears and does not disclose to Lisa what they are going through. Despite the fact that Miranda and Carrie are in their 50s, the relationship between them as roommates is reminiscent of a freshman year of college. "Miranda, you are so well put away. Very astute. It turns out that is the individual who is the absolute worst to share a home with." She walks around naked. She covers Carrie's new table with paperwork, and then she uses the scarf that Carrie provided her to clean up a spilled Coke, and last, she consumes the last of the yogurt. "You don't eat yogurt," she says in response to Carrie's question. "Where's my yogurt?" But this is Carrie's house. Who else's yogurt would it be? Miranda, congratulations. You've successfully got me take Carrie's side regarding whatever is going on for the very first time. Sema, who has been sitting around doing nothing for weeks on this show, is waiting with bated breath for the word on whether or not she will be able to obtain a loan from the bank in order to launch her own real estate company. During the time that she is smoking anxiously in Carrie's backyard, she engages in conversation with Adam, Carrie's gardener, who asks her to take a small puff from her cigarette. The statement that she makes to him is, "I thought you were all green and organic." The response that he gives is, "Yeah, but I'm not a freak about it. I have a strong interest in this dynamic." Just a few moments before, Sema was expressing to the bank official that she would be unable to function without her driver. However, here she is, flirting with a man whose muddy shoes would completely ruin the floor mats in her vehicle. Sema is dissatisfied with the outcome of the situation when she finds out that she has not been granted the bank loan. Miranda, who is aware that Sema needs to find a new place to live, hires Sema to locate her a new apartment. It is a win-win situation for everyone involved, as it will allow Carrie to regain ownership of her home. It will ensure that Sema will receive a broker's fee, and it will provide Miranda with the opportunity to once again play a role that is more appropriate for an adult. And how does the connection between Carrie and Duncan stand? Carrie rushes into Duncan's flat to rescue him when he's unable to hear the sound of his fire alarm going off since he is wearing headphones that filter out background sounds. Or, at the very least, she should remain standing there with her fingers in her ears while he removes his pot from the burner that is on fire. I took Carrie's side once during this episode, and it seems that her inability to genuinely be helpful in a circumstance where her house could have burned down has rendered things null and void. And then, my darling, that is the beginning of their wonderful friendship. Two writers working together under the same roof, each of them dedicating themselves to their work. Moreover, and just like that, is really highlighting these significant shifts that Carrie, Sarah Jessica Parker, is going through. And I have to admit that I am really liking that for her. There's been a lot of honesty on her part recently, beginning with her connection with Aiden, John Corbett, and continuing with her living arrangement. Just because people are living in a larger house does not imply that they do not require their own space. In its third season, and just like that gives the impression that it is presenting Carrie with a number of exciting difficulties to overcome, even if it is something as basic, at least to us, as removing her heels when she is walking around the house. Carrie was forced to confront the truth about Aiden's family condition in the fourth episode, which was titled Apples to Apples. And despite the fact that Wyatt's behavior is incredibly annoying and, to be honest, impolite, she was able to witness what he was going through in person. Just like Aiden, I was concerned that this could result in the end of our relationship, but Carrie did the exact opposite. Carrie felt a sense of relief as a result of Aiden's decision to take his time, and it also served as a hint that their relationship appeared to be strengthening. When I saw it, I couldn't help but feel encouraged. The couple's relationship has been through a lot over the course of the decades, and it is wonderful that it was not going to end so quickly despite the fact that it was not ideal when it was first beginning. Carrie's visit to his farm resulted with her riding an all-terrain vehicle, ATV, shopping at a clothes store that did not specialize in designer apparel, and having a game night, just like it did when she went to his cabin in Sex and the City. What I have always appreciated most about the connection between Carrie and Aiden is the fact that it provided Carrie with a sense of stability. Carrie's visit to his farm resulted with her riding an all-terrain vehicle, ATV, shopping at a clothes store that did not specialize in designer apparel, and having a game night, just like it did when she went to his cabin in Sex and the City. Although at first Carrie may have felt out of place, she eventually found a way to blend in with the group. It was a welcome change from her life in New York, even if I did miss spending time in the fashion industry. Carrie and Aiden's relationship was a door that was still open by the time the episode came to a close, and the revival series can move forward with the knowledge that they will be more okay than I initially thought they would be. It is a pleasant experience to be startled on occasion, particularly now that, and just like that, is beginning to find its proper rhythm. Despite the fact that I still miss the regularity of the characters' lunch outings and conversations, the third season has brought some much-needed stability to what was once a rocking boat. The news that Harry, Evan Hamler, has prostate cancer is revealed to Charlotte, Kristen Davis, in the 5th episode of the show, which is titled Under the Table. Despite the fact that they found it early, which indicates that the show is not ready to kill him off, he does want Charlotte to keep his diagnosis a secret. It is something that she has to cope with on her own, without the assistance of her friends, and this causes her to feel a great degree of weight during the length of the episode. I really hope that the truth is revealed as soon as possible rather than later. It is important to remember that there is a distinction between being pitted and being supported. It is possible that it will prove to be a rich plot that extends beyond the concept of aging. Despite the fact that I still miss the regularity of the characters' lunch outings and conversations, the 3rd season has brought some much-needed stability to what was once a rocking boat. Although it is a positive decision for Sema, Sarita Chowdhury, to venture out on her own rather than working with Ryan Serhant, at least it is not one of those narratives that ignores the difficulties that come along with that. Due to the fact that she does not possess any real assets, she is denied a bank loan almost immediately after receiving the application. Miranda, Cynthia Nixon, who, like Carrie, has a neighbor who is a nuisance, but it has reached the point where she needs to search for a new flat, is able to benefit from the situation. Despite their initial reluctance to combine their personal and professional lives, Sema and Miranda are both in need of each other at the moment. It is amusing that Miranda, who hilariously becomes a meme, and Carrie never actually got the chance to live together previously, despite the fact that we're certain that they did so at some point in the 1990s, and now we know why they probably never did so after that. When it comes to how they live and how much space they require, they're both very different from one another. It's not like Carrie and Miranda are trying to keep these things from one another, even though there are times when Carrie feels frustrated with Miranda. The situation is a classic example of the adage, never live with your friends, which, in other friendships, may have resulted in increasing levels of strife. I am curious to see where this connection goes, especially because it appears to be a lot more fascinating and mature than Miranda's previous one with Sarah Ramirez. Separately, Miranda and Joy, Dolly Wells, finally get together, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this relationship goes. There are many ways in which Joy acts as a grounding influence, and now that Miranda has found her footing, I appreciate the fact that some of her awkwardness is simply due to the fact that she likes Joy and wants to spend time with her. Both of them appear to be a good match for one another, and I am content with the fact that Miranda's storyline has become more serious in the most recent 2 episodes. David, played by Jonathan Cake, is Carrie's annoying neighbor. David is a biography author, and he has no problem telling Carrie that her walking in heels is driving him nuts, and that he has to sleep during the day so that he can write at night. Carrie is used to hearing this from David. Carrie is utterly shocked. I can't believe he would urge her to stop wearing heels when she's at home. However, despite the fact that we are all aware of how much Carrie enjoys her shoes, I find it surprising that she does not want to give her feet a break. At some point, they decide to go out to dinner, and David may feel a little bit of reluctance behind the decision. The fact that David brings a little bit of snark to the series and keeps Carrie on her toes, sorry, it had to be done, is something that I enjoy. It wouldn't bother me if he stayed for a while, especially if it meant that Carrie would have the opportunity to talk about more of her work with someone who has a profound understanding of what it is like to be anxious about writing something new. On top of that, his appearance allowed us to witness a text conversation between Carrie and Samantha. Even while it is quite unlikely that Kim Cattrall would ever be a regular on And Just Like That, it is nevertheless comforting to know that their friendship is still going strong. In conclusion, it appears that we are beginning to observe the appearance of minor fractures in both Lisa, Nicole Ari Parker, and Herbert, Christopher Jackson. They spent a significant portion of episode 5 being irritated with one another, and Lisa even expressed concern about the possibility of a sleeping divorce in episode 4. The fact that Lisa has a proven crush on her new editor, Marion Mechad Brooks, may be the beginning of something more significant than the problems that have been revealed. It appears like the Wexleys' marriage might not be able to withstand the continuous stress that they experience in their employment, and I am aware that Herbert's campaign will be extremely taxing on their relationship. In the 3rd season of And Just Like That, more substantial storylines are starting to take shape, and I can't wait to see where the characters' arcs take them. Even now, there's a great deal of fascinating material to be extracted from the lives of these characters. Despite the fact that each episode may be considered self-contained, problems that develop, regardless of how seemingly insignificant they may appear, have a way of resurfacing. The show has now reached a point where it is comfortable with its own identity. And going forward, it will continue to be interesting to observe how everyone responds to the challenges that life presents to them and how it impacts them. In the event that you believe that Carrie's relocation from her studio on the Upper East Side to a mansion in Gramercy Park would liberate her from the New York City jail, where she previously resided with neighbors who lived upstairs and downstairs, you would be mistaken. While the dust is still settling from her epic adventure in Virginia that took place a week ago, a new figure has surfaced to deliver fresh drama right to her home. Duncan Reeves is now being introduced. In a strict sense, this British hunk of a man, who it is important to point out, looks like a delectable blend of Hugh Grant and Patrick Dempsey, is Carrie's basement tenant. He was inherited from the previous owner of the Gramercy mansion. The relationship between Carrie and Duncan gets off to a bumpy start almost immediately. Carrie has an intriguing habit of wearing shoes inside her house, which is excellent for a fabulous montage of her heel collection, but not so great for a man who appears to want to spend his daylight hours comatose. Carrie's behavior is a terrific example of how she can make a fashion statement. In order to prevent the continual clickety-clacking from rousing him from his afternoon nap, he nearly begs Carrie to take off her heels when she is at home. Carrie is thinking about a few different options. Option A. Evict him. Sema warns that this would be a lengthy process for landlord Bradshaw over here, since it would take years to complete. Option B. Prepare a hostess basket for him to use. It is option B that she chooses. However, to his credit, Duncan's courteous British habits still encourage him to bring her a cup of tea, despite the fact that he accepts the gift with a frosty disposition. In conclusion, he also has a present for Carrie to give her. Take a look at this Amazon shipment, which contains a pair of soft slippers for living in a senior home. Carrie responds to the gift as if he would have dropped Big's urn at any moment. As it may be, when it comes to Duncan Reeves, a renowned historical biographer, loathing her guts, she has no problem with it. In exchange for the opportunity to wear her shoes without interference, she is willing to make concessions, such as strewing unattractive runner carpets across her stunning property that dates back to the 19th century. On the other hand, peace is not easily achieved, and Carrie is not the only person who has to deal with insane neighbors. The Airbnb predicament that Miranda is currently in continues to deteriorate. Miranda was under the impression that she could solve the issue of the person living across the hall continuously playing heavy metal music late into the night by just placing a letter that was a kind of passive-aggressive communication under their doors. The person who received the note, on the other hand, responded by threatening Miranda with a massive meat cleaver and a view of his entire front side. You have a point. Miranda relocates to Carrie's residence. The new flatmate situation is going well for about 5 seconds when Carrie and Miranda realize that they are no longer in their 20s and struggling to make ends meet despite their best efforts. They have lived long and full lives at this point, long enough to forget that working with roommates frequently requires making compromises and being willing to compromise. Carrie, with all of her wealth, really ought not to be so upset over Miranda eating her last banana or yogurt cup. Miranda consumed both of these items. In addition, Miranda ought to give some serious consideration to her decision to stroll around the vast corridors at night while naked and without clothes on. The moment that Miranda pours her drink all over Carrie's new dining table, which was a surprise gift from Aiden, is the moment that nails the final nail in the coffin. Miranda was drinking Carrie's last Mexican Coke at the time. The condition of co-living, despite the fact that it was only temporary, is no longer viable. Miranda seeks Sema's assistance in locating a new residence for herself. In spite of the fact that the kind of residence Miranda is looking for is often below her regular pay bracket, Sema is more than willing to take the job. Sema is unable to persuade the bank to provide her a loan so that she can launch the Patel Group, despite the fact that she endeavors with the utmost diligence. Carrie's landscaper, Adam is the person she runs into once more as she anxiously paces around Carrie's backyard, where she is concerned about the issue. Adam, who appears to be Thor reincarnated into a ragged t-shirt and dirty blue trousers, and Sema, whose immaculate gray ensemble accentuated with gold accent screams sophisticated elegance, are strikingly different from one another. The contrast between the two is absolutely enticing. My stomach literally turns over whenever Adam takes a puff from Sema's cigarette. No, it makes no difference that he casually mentions that he's going to see a yoga teacher or whatever else he is doing. It's a kiss of romance. If you want to give the people what they so much desire, give them the opposites attract trope. Our married women's romantic lives are looking significantly less rosy than they were before it happened. Throughout the course of this season, Lisa has been presented with a number of inconsequential and, to be honest, uninteresting subplots. However, the 5th episode is finally going to be preparing something that is a little bit more exciting for our favorite documentarian. After returning from a business trip to Atlanta with her newly hired editor, Marion, Lisa admits to Charlotte that she has a crush on someone who works in the same field as her. Marion is a hard worker who understands the challenges that come with being the kind of working mother who is doing it all. But Herbert is unable to seem to take in the information that Lisa tells him, regardless of how many times she reminds him that they're going to go glamping on Governor's Island. I do not believe that Herbert is a poor husband, but I do believe that there will be times when there's a lack of appreciation and miscommunication in any kind of relationship that lasts for a significant amount of time. During times of strife, it is not surprising that LTWs I would wander off course. In addition, the fact that Marion resembles Michael B. Handsome is not that surprising either. Although it is acceptable to develop a crush on someone, the question of whether or not it is ethical to have such a crush is an entirely different matter. She asks Charlotte for her approval, and Charlotte lets the inquiry flow off her back like water. As a result, she gives her consent. Do you agree that it's merely a crush? She explains. Because of the disturbing news that Harry has been diagnosed with prostate cancer, she responded in a manner that was unusually calm. It's not like it's the end of the world, she said. Cancer is the perfect disease to help you put things into perspective. Regarding the news, Harry, on the other hand, is a relatively calm individual. In order to achieve his goal, he orders Charlotte to swear a vow of silence and instructs her not to disclose the information to their relatives or friends. On the other hand, he does not appear to be aware that this will need Charlotte to endure her suffering in silence. Charlotte is the one who has to play the role of the bad cop in order to force Rock and Lily's children to spend time with their father when they make a last-minute attempt to drop out of their glamping trip. And when the family winds up spending the majority of the weekend focusing on mosquito bites, Wi-Fi, or polyamorous relationships rather than on each other, Charlotte walks around Governor's Island by herself, pondering the possibility that Harry will not be a part of her future. Lisa is able to pick up on your energy, despite the fact that Charlotte is not yet prepared to discuss it. The presence of a friend who is reassuring is sufficient to extract the one real grin that Charlotte has had throughout the entire weekend. When they're back in Gramercy Park, Carrie and Duncan finally start to feel more comfortable with one another. Following her successful extinguishment of a kitchen fire in his flat, which she accomplished by extinguishing the flames with her heels, no less, the two of them go out to eat together. Carrie puts pressure on Duncan to discuss his fun reputation, which she learned from Samantha Jones, the most successful public relations expert in London. Duncan acknowledges that he can be fun when he is not working, and job is the most important thing in his life in New York City. I have no idea how long that will continue to be the case for him, especially considering the fact that he appears to be the ideal candidate to fill the void that Aiden left in Carrie's romantic life. As a result of their survival in Virginia, Aiden and Carrie may assume that they are out of the woods for the time being. Yet, Duncan's introduction seems to imply that the difficulties they are experiencing in their relationship are not yet over. Carrie has relocated to the city, which means that she is once again stomping around her large flat that is devoid of carpeting and is empty. Her recently returned downstairs neighbor, a handsome British author named Duncan Reeves, Jonathan Cake, is not as thrilled as she is to see her in her largely native habitat. It is great to see her in her natural habitat once again. The two got into a disagreement over Carrie's click-clacking, but it's the kind of conflict that is loaded with sexual tension. That's the kind of conflict that happens. Goldenblatt and Wexley's 2025 glamping vacation doesn't really offer any excitement, despite the problems that are boiling up within both families as a result of Harry's recent diagnosis and Lisa's hot new employee. The new relationship is the most fascinating thing that has occurred in Under the Table. The little stay that Miranda has at Carrie's does provide a few laughs, but the majority of the episode is a grind, just like the episodes that came before it. The montage that was shown at the beginning of the episode is, without a doubt, the most enjoyable thing that we have seen throughout the entire season. It also showcases a great deal of footwear. See below for a selection of the styles, as well as the remainder of the fashion featured in the episode. Carrie is continuing to write her novel in her spacious townhouse, which is still unfurnished. It appears that she is drawing inspiration from another HBO show called The Gilded Age. But as of right now, the writing has not demonstrated any signs of progress to any degree. It is possible that there is some resentment about Cynthia Nixon's participation in the series that was produced by Julian Fellows. On the other hand, after a little excursion into the past, we eventually find ourselves back in the present, where Carrie is strutting around in a variety of heels at her new location. Now, this montage is entertaining. This is exactly what we enjoy seeing. The first thing she does is put on a bejeweled dress and footwear by Renee Chauvilla. Following that, we are presented with a wide variety of footwear to choose from, ranging from bow-adorned Gucci pumps to disco-ready Terry de Havilland platforms. This scenario not only gives certain blink-and-you-will-miss-it elements that are highly desirable, but it also serves as a setup for what is going to happen in the next half an hour with Carrie's new neighbor downstairs. It is not until Carrie's new downstairs neighbor pays her a visit that we see her wearing a full costume. At that time, she is dressed in a pink dress with a bias cut and yellow Aquazzura heels. What appears to be the case is that Carrie is not familiar with the 80% carpet rule, and the writer Duncan Reeves is finding that her footwork is really getting on his nerves. Duncan asks Carrie to take off her heels in her apartment, which, to tell you the truth, does not appear to be such an absurd request. In addition, those heels can't possibly be healthy for the wood floors. Carrie, on the other hand, is shocked by the request and is adamant that she would not give up her cherished stilettos. In the first season, she had hip surgery and was required to wear flats while she was recovering. It appears that she forgot about the incident that occurred during that time. Or the more recent instance of this season, in which she makes use of sandals manufactured by Dr. Scholl. In spite of the fact that they are always arguing with one another, there is an obvious physical attraction between them right away, and the beginning of their adversaries to lovers cliché has been established. During the lunch for the females, Carrie recounts her encounter with Duncan. Miranda makes an effort to tie the incident to her own experience with an obnoxious neighbor, but Carrie is irritated to discover that the emphasis has shifted away from her for a little while. Carrie is instantly brought back into the debate, and the girls immediately begin to discuss potential solutions to her predicament. They consider everything from eviction to murder as potential solutions. Nevertheless, when the identity of her neighbor is exposed in the end, he is essentially a hot Ron Chernow. Miranda begs Carrie to simply remove her shoes and allow the man to write freely. Despite this, Carrie is adamantly opposed to the idea of getting rid of her mismatched polka dot pumps, which serve as a tribute to the Sarah Jessica Parker shoe line, which has since been discontinued. A black tank dress that is put over a shirt dress is what Carrie wears with the heels of her choice. She completes the ensemble by carrying the same Pierre Cardin crossbody bag that she has worn numerous times throughout the course of the series. Charlotte, on the other hand, stands in stark contrast to Carrie by wearing a very colorful combination that includes a dress from La Double J and a bag from Valextra, among other items. Sema, as is her customary practice, is dressed in animal print, namely a snakeskin blouse with off-the-shoulder sleeves by Simkai. Miranda, on the other hand, is wearing a striped Palmer/Harding dress. When Carrie and Charlotte were on their post-lunch walk, you may have thought, wow, Charlotte is really rubbing in the fact that she gets to wake up next to the love of her life every day while Carrie is alone. Well, karma sadly bites back quickly when, during a passeggiata by the Guggenheim, Charlotte, in nude flats she should probably lend to Carrie, finds out that Harry's recent pants-wetting incident led him to make a doctor's appointment, where he learned that he has prostate cancer. Harry reassures Charlotte that they detected it early and that the survival percentage is high, which is understandable given that Charlotte is experiencing a panic attack. Despite this, he does not want her to disclose this information to anybody else. He is not interested in being known as the cancer guy. Before departing for Atlanta for the weekend, Lisa reminds her husband, Herbert, of their intentions to go glamping while wearing a Cynthia Abeles suit that was fashioned to order just for her. Mainly due to the fact that fringe trousers and a wicker toucan bag are the epitome of an effective airport ensemble. You're going to absolutely adore seeing Sema's meeting at the loan office if you found the talk that took place between LTW and Herbert to be particularly interesting. Now that she has left her employment, she is searching for some money to get her solo business off the ground. It's time to start flirting with female. Despite the fact that Carrie is legally the new neighbor, she makes an effort to make amends with Duncan by delivering a welcome basket. During this time, she discloses that they both work in the same field, and Duncan's reluctance to associate with the British continues. Additionally, he surprises her with a gift of his own, which is a pair of slippers that are silent and cozy. Despite the fact that she is allergic to whatever this is, Carrie refuses to accept the existing scenario. Despite the fact that Charlotte is not doing particularly well after learning of Harry's condition, she continues to wear the same apron. It is not helpful that her children are attempting to trick their way out of the glamping weekend that they are attending. For the sake of Lily, it is important to note that having partial custody of your polysexual partner might be challenging. The time spent together on the weekends is priceless. Another person who is fed up with her inquisitive neighbor is Miranda. On the other hand, when she puts on her Lisa B, when she tries to slip yet another message under the rocker's door while wearing clogs and a vintage robe, she is confronted by a butcher knife-wielding someone who has a menacing penis in her face. She will be going to Carrie's apartment. In order to get ready for her stay at Carrie's apartment, Miranda puts on her Ola Johnson top and her burnt orange Todd skirt, gets her Anya Hindmarch luggage that she had custom-made, and then goes to her destination. Carrie is not feeling quite like herself, which is a very unfortunate event. In the first place, it appears that she is having a difficult time renovating. Carrie, the paint should be applied to the walls, not the overalls. However, she is also anxious about the entire Duncan issue, and she insists that Miranda remove her etro heels as soon as she crosses the threshold. In spite of the fact that her flight was delayed, LTW was able to arrive at Governor's Island wearing her extravagant cargo pants and carrying 2 Bottega Veneta duffel bags. At this point, it is time to start the Esmores on fire. One unfortunate thing is that nobody brought the chocolate. It is only logical that she would have packed 2 luggage for a weekend trip, and one of them must contain something chocolatey. Despite the fact that it took 5 episodes, the 3rd season is eventually the one in which we catch our first glimpse of Samantha. The purpose of Carrie's text message to her old acquaintance in London is to inquire about Duncan. At this point, we can act as if Kim Cattrall is on the other end of that phone. However, in reality, it is more likely that an intern is making a sexual joke that is so blatant that the real Samantha would laugh at it. Leaving the townhouse to Carrie for the night, Miranda makes her way to Joy's house for the first sleepover they would ever have together. Miranda will be wearing a jumpsuit by Alberta Ferretti, and Joy will be wearing a jacket by Issey Miyake. Together, they make a stylish couple. Miranda returns to her temporary house, where her midnight trip to the bathroom in her underwear means that she is now the naked neighbor. All she needs is a butcher's knife to get her naked. However, the journalist's Italian greyhounds get in the way of their good time. Due to the fact that Charlotte's family does not wish to leave the tent, the glamping experience is only getting off to a poor start. In addition, the Wexleys are not doing very well, and when Herbert comes across a photograph of Lisa's new editor, he immediately begins to level charges against her. When they run into one other on the pier, both of the women are wearing brightly colored outfits, and they come to the conclusion that the only remedy is to spend some time at the spa. Sema finds out that she did not girl flirt enough, which resulted in the rejection of her loan application, or perhaps the bank simply does not want to fund the purchase of her off-the-runway clothing. Her present set is Emilia Wickstead Springs, Summer 2024. Fortunately, she has recently acquired a new customer in Miranda, who does not care if she is meeting her realtor in a stunning office or in a townhouse that is vacant on a table that is covered in an assortment of Mexican cuisine, as if they were destined to be together forever. As a result of Duncan's carelessness, the two competing parties end up having dinner together, and Carrie is finally able to convince her neighbor's smile. The evening is enough to convince Carrie to remove her Manolo Blahniks, which are a wonderful match for her plain sud denim shirt. The two make a connection over the difficulties they're experiencing with their writing career. Is that Aiden? There is a new man in town, and he now has a location that is far more convenient. Emma Stone and Yorgos Lanthimos are a formidable team that cannot be defeated. Following the success of the film that won an Academy Award, Poor Things, and the anthology Kinds of Kindness, which was released the previous year, the creative duo is planning to make their next feature film together, Begonia, which is a dark science fiction comedy that is based on the South Korean cult smash Save the Green Planet, which was released in 2003. With a fresh perspective on her relationship, Carrie has returned to New York after integrating herself into Aiden's family in Virginia. She is putting her best foot forward and putting her best foot forward. Nevertheless, in the manner that is characteristic of Carrie Bradshaw, that foot is adorned with a very fashionable high heel. Her stomping around the apartment while wearing gorgeous shoes makes for a fantastic opening sequence in this episode, but it is a complete and utter annoyance to her neighbor who lives downstairs. This is something that is relatable to everyone who has ever lived in a New York apartment. It turns out that a British writer named Duncan Reeves, played by Jonathan Cake, has moved into the basement unit and is having trouble sleeping due to Carrie's clicking and cracking. However, he is a complete grouch, despite the fact that he is gorgeous. Carrie laughs at him when he asks her to take off her shoes in her own home, because she believes that it is an unreasonable request. On the other hand, this Asian American editor assures me that it's not quite as awful. In the course of having lunch with the girls, Carrie discovers that this Duncan is in fact a highly acclaimed and best-selling novelist who is famous for his biographies, and Miranda is a fan of his work. She is so concerned about him that she asks Carrie to let him sleep so that he may complete writing his next book. Sema, who is an expert on New York real estate, claims that Duncan is only in the city for a total of 6 months out of the year, and that he is strictly there for the purpose of writing. While Miranda is staying in her illegal Airbnb, she is experiencing her own set of neighbor issues. Rock music is played loudly throughout the night by the renter who lives across the hall. In an attempt to convince him to calm down, she places messages under his door. However, one day, he confronts her in a horrifying fashion, in which he is nude and carrying a meat cleaver. Miranda immediately moves in with Carrie after he threatens to cut her to pieces if she does not keep up with the notes. How come I didn't come up with this idea earlier? Apparently, Carrie forgot that she has more rooms. Is that plural? I don't understand. Their problems, on the other hand, appear to be insignificant in comparison to Harry's. During a stroll with Charlotte in front of the Guggenheim Museum, he discloses that he is suffering from prostate cancer. The good news is that it was discovered at an early stage, and the survival rate among patients is 98 million%. With a tone that is almost too matter-of-fact, he gives Charlotte the assurance, "I promise you that I am not going to die for a very long time." This bigger focus on Harry is unexpected, but I assume without Aiden or Steve, as well as a number of other AGLT characters, he has more space to take up. His only request is that she not tell anyone, even their relatives and friends, so that people do not treat him differently on account of his status as the cancer guy. There is no way that the Goldenblatts will let the diagnosis prevent them from going on their glamping excursion to Governor's Island that weekend. The reason that Charlotte is so adamant about her children accompanying her to spend quality time with their father is something that she will not reveal. When Lisa returns from her business trip to Atlanta with her editor Marion, she and her family will be there to greet them. Even though Lisa and her husband Herbert are already having trouble communicating with one another, the fact that she is traveling with a handsome man co-worker does not help the situation. During this time, Sema is unrelenting in her pursuit to establish her own real estate agency. However, in order to maintain appearances, She need a loan to establish an office in Tribeca, as well as other business requirements, such as a driver. She has high expectations that the female bank employee will be able to vouch for her, but it won't be easy to do so. Carrie is hesitant to combine her relationship with business, despite the fact that it is evident that she should assist Miranda in her search for a new home to live. In spite of this, she will continue to interfere in the affairs of her neighbor Duncan, who lives nearby. She presents him with a welcome basket and makes an effort to form a connection with him through their common occupation as authors. However, when he presents her with a pair of Humble House slippers as an apology gift, they end up being at odds once more. Despite the fact that it is not the most convenient time for Carrie to get a large shipment of furniture, it is a pleasant surprise nonetheless. Carrie was surprised to learn that Aiden had purchased the table she had always dreamed of purchasing and had it brought to her as a present. With any luck, the delivery men won't create an excessive amount of noise. On the other hand, this episode has an even more shocking revelation: Samantha. Although it is unfortunate that the wonderful Kim Cattrall does not make an appearance on screen, she and SJP have discussed the fact that she is finished with the program. We do get to see Samantha's texts. Carrie reaches out to Samantha in order to inquire about her knowledge of Duncan, given that she resides in London, which is Duncan's home base. According to the high-powered publicist, he's supposed to be a lot of fun. When Carrie says he's living under her apartment, we get a classic quip from Samantha: "I wish he was under me. Cool, he miss here." A quick glimpse at their earlier text reveals that Carrie and Samantha have been playing a bit of phone tag, with them asking each other if they missed their window to call. Although this cameo only lasts a few seconds, it appears that the two longtime friends are maintaining their strong relationship. Nevertheless, Carrie and Miranda are growing too close to one another. Carrie discovers Miranda naked in the hallway one evening, after she has returned from Joy's apartment in the previous location. At least she did not have a meat cleaver. The following morning, she fails to realize that she had made a mistake and ends up eating Carrie's final yogurt and banana for breakfast. The final straw is when Miranda pulls her last Mexican Coke from the refrigerator and throws her work detritus across Carrie's new table. Carrie is able to conceal her anger, but Miranda's actions ultimately prove to be the final straw. During the course of their joint effort to clean up the mess, Carrie accidentally knocks over the Coca-Cola, causing the beverage to spill onto the table as well as Miranda's laptop. In a rush, Carrie makes the mistake of using Miranda's study to clean up the puddle, while Miranda decides to use Carrie's expensive scarf instead. Both of them are aware that this living arrangement is not going to be successful. Sema's bank application has been turned down, and she is eager to get started on her business. It is a fortunate coincidence that she has been rejected the loan. Miranda will receive assistance from her in her search for a new residence because the stars have aligned properly. She also had the opportunity to flirt with Carrie's handsome gardener once more. On the island of Governors, Lisa is looking for some space from her spouse, while Charlotte is hoping to spend more time with her relationship with her husband. On the other hand, her exhausting efforts to convince Rock and Lily to form a bond with their father without informing them that he is afflicted with cancer are ultimately unsuccessful. As a means of decompressing, the buddies sneak away to a spa. Despite the fact that Lisa has denied the allegations made by her husband that there is something going on between her and Marion, she gives Charlotte the truth about the situation. "I have a crush on her at work, but that's not a problem, is it?" What she does not take any action regarding it. The fact that Charlotte is so distracted and upset makes it difficult for her to receive a reaction from her. Keeping Harry's condition a secret is something that Charlotte continues to do in order to honor the commitment she made to him. In spite of everything, Lisa consoles her. Upon returning to Carrie's, an alarm goes off, and Duncan's room is filled with smoky smoke. The fact that he is wearing headphones prevents him from noticing that his food is taking fire on the stove, which Carrie discovers after she has allowed herself to enter the house. In his haste to transfer the pot, a dish towel catches fire and falls to the ground. However, before the flames can spread, Carrie puts out the fire by stomping on the fabric while wearing her very high heels. The situation was saved by her loud sneakers. Carrie and Duncan go out to eat, and while they are there, they have a genuine chat about writing. Duncan's lunch has recently been burned, Later that evening, when Carrie finally makes it back to her house, she does something courageous when she removes her shoes. In the episode that aired on Thursday, we found out that beneath Carrie's Gramercy Park townhouse is an apartment that is occupied by the irritable British author Duncan Reeves, who is portrayed by Jonathan Cake, DC Stargirl, The Affair. Carrie's propensity of loudly stomping around her house in high heels caused Duncan to take a dislike to her almost quickly. As a result, the two of them began to argue nearly immediately, in a manner that was typical of romantic comedies. He gave her hideous pink slippers to wear around the home. What a nerve! However, Duncan eventually opened up to Carrie about the challenges he faced while working on a history of Margaret Thatcher, and she admitted that she was nervous about writing fiction for the first time. Consequently, it is possible that their mutual love of writing could eventually evolve to a different kind of passion. Having Carrie form a connection with another writer was exciting for us, says Julie Rottenberg, executive producer of the show, in an interview with TV Line. She says that she has never had a connection of that nature with a man before, aside from Berger in the original Sex and the City, and we all know how that turned out. Yes, we all remember the infamous Post-it note. However, according to Rottenberg, there is a sort of fantasy of being able to connect with someone in a very intellectual and emotional way. There is nothing more satisfying than reaching a solution to an issue with a writing partner, thinking together, and gaining an understanding of how the other person thinks, while also providing assistance to one another. This is quite exciting. Furthermore, we've never seen Carrie write with anyone else, says Elisa Zuritsky, the executive producer of the band. In some ways, this season, probably more than any other in the entire series, really leans into Carrie as a writer in a more real way. However, Rottenberg is quick to add that, at this moment, Carrie and Duncan really are only connecting in a cerebral, intellectual way. At least, that is how it appears so far, considering that Aiden is located in Virginia, which is hundreds of miles distant. As the 5th episode begins, Carrie is confronted by Duncan Reeves, played by Jonathan Cake, who is a British writer and lives in the apartment below her. Duncan Reeves ambushes Carrie at her front door. The constant wearing of heels by her is causing him to work at night, sleep during the day, and is on the verge of having a breakdown. The confrontation is peaceful, almost, but it establishes the tone for the entire episode, which is that everyone is a little unhappy and a little out of place all throughout the show. At the other end of town, Miranda is dealing with her own neighbor issue. Despite Miranda's repeated requests, the guy next door is a metalhead who refuses to turn down his music. Miranda has sent him multiple notes over the years. As a result, she moves in with Carrie for a short period of time. She is a lousy housemate in general, and within 24 hours, she is eating the contents of Carrie's refrigerator, strolling around full frontal in the middle of the night, and overall being annoying. In order to find a new location, she begs Sema for assistance. Charlotte and Harry's relationship takes a turn for the worse when Harry discloses that he is suffering from prostate cancer. Even though the prognosis is favorable, 98% chance of survival, Charlotte is inconsolable. The fact that Harry begs her not to tell anyone causes her to sink into a downward spiral. Although Lisa has a hunch that something is awry, Charlotte stays true to her word. During this time, Lisa, Herbert, Charlotte, Harry, and the children are getting ready to embark on a luxurious glamping weekend. Yet, things are feeling tight. Understandably, Charlotte is preoccupied with other things. Both Herbert and Lisa are holding secrets from each other, and Herbert is feeling nervous about Lisa's new editor. Charlotte is on the verge of revealing Harry's diagnosis when Lisa admits to her that she has a harmless crush at work. Lisa's confession comes just 1 millisecond before Charlotte does so. Carrie arrives at the apartment of the British writer with a hamper, ensuring that there is a rare moment of calm between the neighbors. It is an uncomfortable visit. Is he aware of the person he is dealing with when he provides her a hybrid pair of flats and granny slippers to wear in her living environment? It is clear that she despises them. They both put on an act of being courteous. In the future, their tension reaches a point where it literally boils over when his pot that he left unattended catches fire, and it is her stilettos that provide the solution to the problem. The two of them end up having dinner together, and bonding over the fact that they both have writer's block, which marks the beginning of what seems to be an unexpected spark. Carrie receives a surprise delivery of the table that she had attempted to purchase, but was unsuccessful in doing so. This comes at a time when we were beginning to believe that this could be the beginning of the end for her and Aiden's relationship. As it turns out, Aiden was the one who purchased it and then gave it to someone as a present. Even from a distance, it is the kind of gesture that is not particularly large, but has a significant impact that brings their relationship back to life. As a charming throwback to the past, Carrie sends Samantha a text message in which she discusses her new neighbor downstairs. What is Samantha's response? "My goodness, Samantha, I've been missing her so much. I wish she was working under me." However, at least we have Sema, who engages in another flirtatious scene with Adam, who is Carrie's maintenance worker. He takes a sip off her cigarette, and although I'm unable to articulate the precise reasons why I want them to date, I do actually want them to. Finally, the episode comes to a nice conclusion. The moment Carrie arrives at her residence, she takes off her heels and walks around her flat barefoot. The process of growth appears to be somewhat similar to falling off your heels. At times, I still find myself thinking about the 9th episode of the 6th season of Sex and the City, which is titled A Woman's Right to Shoes. In this episode, Carrie, played by Sarah Jessica Parker, is compelled to take off her Manolo Blahnik heels in order to attend a baby shower hosted by a friend, only to have them stolen from a foyer. An episode-long reflection on the choices and spending habits that women are entitled to make is initiated when a friend offers to pay Carrie back, but refuses to do so because of the price of $485. Many factors contribute to the episode's status as a classic. Whether you choose to be angry, to start a conversation, or to put a harsh light on the expectations that society has of women, this is a powerful statement. And just like that, rips off its predecessor and then commits the even greater sin of being incredibly boring. This hour of the show is particularly uninteresting. The pun, "a woman's right to shoes," is repeated by Carrie for the most incomprehensible reason that can possibly be imagined. The reason for this is that Carrie suddenly possesses a downstairs neighbor in the garden unit of her building. This neighbor is a very famous biographer named Duncan Reeves, played by Jonathan Cake, who spends 6 months of the year secluded in New York City writing. We're given a montage of Carrie strolling about her house while wearing a number of pairs of ridiculous heels. Of course, the song "These Boots Are Made for Walking" until he finally loses his cool and raps on her door, asking that she remove her shoes from the house so that he can sleep and write in peace and quiet. Carrie portrays herself as if he had requested that she amputate her arm. It is during breakfast that she expresses her regret to the ladies, saying, "It does not matter if William Shakespeare himself is renting under me. The shoes do not come off. Excuse me, what is it? During the day, you are not at a party. Rather, you are at your residence. Maintain the integrity of your arches." After Miranda, Cynthia Nixon tries to show sympathy by revealing that she, too, is experiencing neighbor issues at her Airbnb. Carrie answers in the most Carrie-like manner possible, asking, "What does that have to do with me?" after Miranda shares her experience. This is not going to be the most cruel thing that Carrie says to Miranda through the course of the show. Carrie tries everything she can think of to win over this new neighbor, with the exception of the straightforward answer of removing her shoes inside the house. She purchases runners, she offers him a welcome basket of sweets, and she forces other people, including Miranda, to remove their shoes within the house. Carrie responds, "Yes, but I know how to walk in them." Miranda then points out that Carrie is wearing her shoes, and Carrie responds by saying, "Yes, but I know how to walk in them." Duncan then orders Carrie some awful house slippers, nursing home slippers, according to Carrie, which results in a negative reaction from Carrie. In the event that Miranda's genuine neighbor problems become more severe, he threatens her with a meat cleaver when she is completely naked. She decides to temporarily move in with Carrie. It is difficult to comprehend how these two have been friends for such a long time. Miranda is a terrible roommate since she eats Carrie's food, wanders about the house naked at night, and spreads her work stuff across Carrie's table. However, Carrie is also a harsh and prickly person. How is it that these two do not have a deeper understanding of each other and the values that they hold? After it becomes abundantly evident that they are unable to cohabit, Carrie ultimately asks Sema, Sarita Chowdhury, to assist Miranda in locating a suitable flat environment. During this week, Sema's sole other activity consisted of flirting with Carrie's gardener once more and being rejected by a bank for a loan to rent her own real estate office in Tribeca. As the story comes to a close, Duncan is the one who causes a bit of a commotion by forgetting about his boiling pot while he is writing and setting off the fire alarm. However, he and Carrie are able to reconcile their differences over dinner. In their conversation, they both discuss their concerns over writing. He is attempting to write a biography of Margaret Thatcher, while she is attempting to write fiction. They appear to find some areas of agreement. As soon as Carrie arrives at her house, she removes her shoes, as if this were a significant act of self-sacrifice or a demonstration of her maturation. Everything about it is really empty and uninteresting. Lisa, Nicole Ari Parker, and Charlotte Kirsten Davis, who drag their families glamping, have the most compelling exhibition of friendship in this episode. The display of luxury in this episode is not only upsetting, but also perplexing. When you are still in New York and have the opportunity to view the Statue of Liberty, why should you pay to sit in enormous tents? Doesn't the purpose of glamping consist of being opulently and grotesquely comfy while being in the great outdoors? Although I'm not a camper or a glamper, I'm not sure what you mean. When they're glamping, not much happens because everyone is kind of upset. Lily, Kathy Ong, didn't want to be away from her boyfriend. Harry, Evan Handler, keeps getting bitten by mosquitoes. Lisa and Herbert, Chris Jackson, are arguing about communication issues, and she feels guilty for having a little work crush on her editor. None of these things happen. It has come to Charlotte's attention that Harry is suffering from prostate cancer, and what she wants more than anything is to make this weekend a pleasant one. I suppose that scene in which he urinated on his pants wasn't as meaningless as it seemed at the time. He begs her to keep it to herself since he doesn't want everyone to think of him as the cancer guy, but it is obvious that this is a bit of a strain on Charlotte. She and Lisa decide to get away for some peace and quiet, and Lisa asks her if she would want to have a conversation. In spite of the fact that it is obvious that Charlotte does, she shows her respect for Harry by shaking her head tearfully. Lisa nods, but does so while placing a soothing hand on her back. Within the entirety of the program, it seems to be the sole genuine moment.